Well, thanks everybody for joining us. I have with me today Marc Glickman. Marc Glickman is CEO of BuddyIns and founder of BuddyIns, and is an actuary by trade. Has been in the long-term care business for quite some time, sort of a family business, so to speak. And his dad has been very heavily involved in the long-term care market as well. So very happy to have Marc with us today to help walk through everything that's going on as it relates to the Washington Cares Fund. My role with BuddyIns is as an account manager, and I work very closely with companies like Synology and with consultants like Linda with Hub to really provide information, resources, guidance in terms of how to work within the confines of the Washington Cares Fund, and potentially how folks can opt out of the new payroll tax. So feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions beyond this, but we also have a very large network of long-term care specialists that you can reach out to directly as well. And we'll talk more about that here in a minute. So with that, I'm going to turn it over to Marc Glickman, and Marc will kick things off.
Yeah, thanks for Aaron for teeing that up, and great to meet all of you. So as Aaron mentioned, I'm a long-term care specialist, but I'm also an actuary by background. So I helped a lot of the insurance companies in my prior life actually develop the products. And so I always felt like to get the client the best value, you really had to understand, what are the best options for that particular situation. So what we have is a model here where you can meet with a hand-selected long-term care specialist, somebody who's full-time in the marketplace in Washington, to help you do a private consultation to figure out what your best options are. A lot of people think that this payroll tax is just a way, like I should just opt out of this because I don't want to pay the tax. And while we totally understand that, and it doesn't feel good to be forced to do something, the bigger picture is people that buy private insurance get the most value by actually looking at the coverage itself and trying to get the best deal in the marketplace. And there really is no opt-out, quote unquote, solution available. So not everybody that we talk to is a good candidate for private insurance. And we're going to show you today the people that are going to get the best value out of what we can offer to you in Washington today, and what the timelines and deadlines are to make sure that you get in before the window, because what you're going to get is a really meaningful plan for your family. And then of course the opt-out is going to be something that you won't have to pay, for the rest of your working career, because you have your own plan already in place. So hopefully that makes sense, but I want everyone to feel open to asking questions on this call, and we'll leave time at the end to allow for questions. So let's jump into the meat of the conversation. It's really this question here: should I stay or should I go, right? And in order to figure out whether it makes sense to look at private long-term care insurance, which is the way that you can opt out of the payroll tax, first we have to talk about what exactly is long-term care insurance to begin with. And so the reason that I got in the business, as Aaron mentioned, my family got into the business, is this is really something that hit home for us, in that all four of my grandparents needed long-term care. Two of them were poor Holocaust survivors. They didn't have any money. They didn't have a long-term care plan. And as a result, I watched my mom take care of them out of our house for between 5 and 10 years for each of them. And you see the effect it has on your family not having this plan in place. And this is why Washington has passed this law, is it's happening to a lot of families all across the country. And so what long-term care planning involves is really, caregiving and figuring out how do you financially pay for that care. On the other side of my family, my dad's parents, of course, my dad being in the long-term care insurance industry, bought a plan for himself, bought a plan for his parents. They actually owned an insurance agency themselves. And because of that, I saw the effect of having professional caregivers, a financial solution in place. And when they passed away after using their long-term care, their kids, my aunts, actually got all the money they put into the policy as a return of premium. And we'll talk about some of those solutions too. So it worked out very well for our family having long-term care insurance. And so we're advocating for this because we really believe in this. We own this ourselves. And Aaron can also attest to that. Aaron, anything else that you would bring, into this in terms of like people you're talking to in Washington, and, how to understand what long-term care insurance and long-term care planning is about?
Yeah, well, I think you covered it well. Marc, like your family, I've also had issues in my own family. My great grandmother, who had Alzheimer's, was actually in a nursing home for about 15 years, and my grandmother was in a home for about 5 years with Alzheimer's as well. And to Marc's point, one of the greatest features of long-term care really is being able to use it to receive care when and where you want to receive it, as opposed to, either deciding not to spend your own money or try not to spend your own money and having family take care of you, or, worst case scenario, qualifying for the state Medicaid plan, in which case you lose a lot of control, right? So having long-term care really gives you a lot of flexibility in terms of your planning.
Right.
That's what I would add to that.
Yeah. And a lot of people are surprised that there really is no government safety net for long-term care. Medicaid is really the plan of last resort, as you mentioned, after you actually spend down all of your assets. So you actually have to impoverish yourself to qualify for benefits. And of course, you're not getting the control, as you mentioned, or the quality of care that you might desire at that point in time. The Washington Cares Fund will talk about kind of the pros and cons of that option. But again, it's probably not going to have the same quality of care as if you had built your own personal plan. And really, this is about a planning process. So what does the insurance market look like? Obviously, a lot of people are going to need long-term care at some point in their lives, and that's just what the statistics, tell us. It's becoming more prevalent, especially as people are living longer. And Aaron had mentioned he already has 2 family experiences with somebody in his family that have had Alzheimer's disease, which is becoming more of an epidemic, and there aren't a lot of cures or delays. They recently tried to pass a drug that's becoming all the rage today because there's a lot of controversy about why they passed. The FDA allows this particular drug because of its efficacy is in question. But again, it's because there's this almost desperation out there to have some type of solution for this. But if there isn't a solution, of course, you might need care because of Alzheimer's. And again, you may need to use benefits for many years from the insurance policies. The way that they're designed is to pay you as a pool of benefits. So economically, what we try to do is try to find the best value. For every dollar that you spend, how many dollars of benefits do you get in your benefit pool versus if you were to invest that money yourself, or if you were to put that money into the payroll tax. So we're going to do a lot of that analysis today. So you can see we're very transparent about what we offer. If it doesn't make sense for you, we're going to tell you that this might not be a good fit for you. And we'll tell you who might be the right candidate to be looking at the private insurance options. Some of the policies today, as my actually grandparents purchased, allow you an option where if you don't use the long-term care benefits, the money that you put into the policy get passed on to your beneficiary or available as a cash value. And so there is a lot more options in the marketplace today. And those options do allow you to qualify for opt-out. So we do look at both what we call traditional policies as well as what are called hybrid policies. And literally there's no better or worse. They just have pros and cons and different price points. So that's why we want you to have this individual consultation with the specialist. So really, who are these specialists? They're people that I've known for many years. They're friends of mine. They are full-time long-term care agents, but they work with all the major carriers in the marketplace. So we're not beholden to offering one type of product. We actually have all of your best options available for you. And so based on your needs, they're picking out what makes the most sense. And in fact, the very first thing that they're going to ask you for is to talk about your health. Because what you find out in long-term care insurance is to get the best value, typically the insurance company is going to want to know that you're relatively healthy today, and you're not likely to use the care, for the next, 10, 20, 30 years. And that's how they can offer you better value for your dollar, is they're creating a clean pool of risk, as they call it, on the actuarial side. And that's a good thing for you, because if they are selective about who they take in, that means that you're going to be a part of a risk pool that's also going to be delivering good results in terms of the value you get from your policy. Okay, so that's the process in a nutshell, and we'll kind of walk through what that looks like. But given the time deadlines for the state program, that's what's creating more of a sense of urgency here, is that you only have until prior to November 1st to buy a private insurance policy in order to opt out of the payroll tax itself. So we're going to talk about some of those rules, but that's why this process, it does take time. It might take a couple, 3, 4 meetings with the specialist to make sure they're getting the right plan for you, but that's intended to make sure that you get the best policy for your unique situation. So, wrong button. So we're going to go to the next section. And then again, if you have questions about any of these topics, I know we're covering them pretty fast. Again, we'll take some of those at the end. So this Washington Cares Fund, the state has designed this program intentionally because they're seeing the cost of care escalating so fast in Washington. And in particular, Medicaid program itself is being overtaxed. And so what they want to figure out is how do they collect revenues to pay for this benefit for a lot of people out there that are using instead Medicaid benefits and spending down. And so they've created this social insurance program. It's the very first in the country, although other states are looking at it as well, and it's very likely that other states will follow. But the way it works is that for every $100,000 of wages that you make, it's about a $580 tax per year. So 0.58% of your wages. And so for people that are higher earners, they're going to pay more into this fund. For people that are lower earners, they're going to pay less into the fund. The total benefits that are available are $36,500, and it says with nominal increases. And that's because in order for the state to increase it, it has to be solvent. And there's some questions, of course, as to whether the program itself is solvent, but it cannot exceed CPI in terms of what they increase it. So this is probably the biggest limitation of the program, is actually the benefit maximum. So again, if you're a higher earner and you're going to pay into this for many years, it may turn out that you're actually going to pay more into the payroll tax than you could ever receive in terms of benefits in the first place. So from that perspective, it's going to make a lot of sense to look at private insurance, because you'll just get more for your dollar. But that's not true for everyone. And again, not everyone can health qualify for private insurance. So we're going to look at those that may actually benefit from the CARES fund versus those that may want to opt out. So you can kind of make that decision for yourself, what makes sense. I think the thing that has people up in arms a little bit in Washington is they really rushed this thing through, and they didn't consult with the insurance marketplace when they did it. They didn't want it to get terminated, so to speak, if they didn't get it passed as a law. And now that it's passed, there are some things that they're trying to figure out. One of which is that in order to qualify for the state benefits, which are limited in the first place, you actually have to retire in Washington. And a lot of people, especially if you're younger, who knows where you'll be in 30, 40, 50 years, which state you're going to be in. So you may not get benefits because you have to get benefits in the state of Washington in the first place. The other thing that I think has left a lot of people out is, let's say you're closer to retirement. Let's say you're 60 years old and you're going to retire at 65. Well, in order to vest in the benefits of the state program, you have to pay into it for at least 10 years. They have one exception to that, which says that if you need care and you've paid into the plan for 3 of the last 6 years, you can still get care. But again, if you need care, let's say in your 80s, when a lot of people need care and you've retired when you're 65, you really have to be vested and have paid into it for 10 years. So again, some people are left out from that perspective as well. So even though the benefits are limited, there are a lot of people that are not going to get benefits just in general from the plan. So again, the only way to opt out of the payroll tax today is to purchase long-term care insurance. It's a once in a lifetime decision. And again, that's what's creating this sense of urgency and this rush. We like to spend months and sometimes years helping clients, educating them before they make this decision. But in this particular situation, we don't have a choice. Again, for the purpose of the opt-out, they say you have to have purchased it by October 31st. And then you submit a form with the state approving your purchase, and then you can opt out by the end of 2022. But the payroll tax itself will begin on January of 2022. Aaron, any questions that you have in mind? And I'll go into some FAQs and we can cover those as well.
I think the one thing to point out, and Mark mentioned, that the state didn't consult with carriers in the insurance industry on this, and so they weren't quite sure how to react to what's going on in the state as well. And so one thing to add to the sense of urgency here is some of the insurance companies are unsure how to price, and they've made some product modifications, and so and that they're also limited in capacity and being able to handle the volume of business that's coming at them, out of the state of Washington. And so that's also adding to the sense of urgency, not just that you have to buy it by October 31st or have it in place by November 1st, but just getting through the process itself does take a little bit of time. So it really actually shortens the time frame here. From, you can't really think of it as, well, I should make a decision by October 31st. You really have to make a decision, and probably, I think it's fair to say, in the next month, maybe 6 weeks, to start the process and make sure that what you are pursuing can actually be placed in force by the end of October.
Yeah, and we will make sure you have access to these specialists where you can meet with them several times, so you can take time to make that decision. They'll educate you in addition to the education we're doing today. So I don't want you to feel like you have to make a decision before you're ready, but Aaron's absolutely right. Your optimal strategy here is to buy insurance before October 1st. Because October 1st is when the opt-out window opens up, and you want to be able to have your policy enforced to opt out as soon as possible if you know you're going to do it. So if you know you want to buy private insurance, I would say meet with your specialist soon. Aaron had mentioned there's underwriting involved, right, in this process. There's capacity issues. The carriers may start to limit the number of people that they take, and you may lose options as we get closer to the deadline. We've already seen that happening. But the options you have today are excellent. And so I'm going to show you what you can expect there. just make sure you don't delay on that because we don't want you to lose those options. So first question we always get is, can I just buy a policy and then just drop it as soon as the payroll tax comes into effect? And it's a kind of a natural thinking that you might have, especially if you're not thinking about long-term care insurance to begin with. And the answer is no. The reason why you can't do this is a couple of fold. One is that the state has it in their right to audit your coverage. And so while right now they're not saying how they're going to do that, or if they're going to do that after the deadline, after you opt out initially, if too many people opt out, it's logical to think they're not collecting these revenues that they expect to support the program. They could potentially recertify it, and they may pass a new law to do that. They may pass new rules to do that. So I would say it's dangerous to use that as a strategy because you might end up getting wrapped back into it later. That's a possibility. The other reason we can't do it is that the products, as Aaron mentioned, were not priced in this environment, and the carriers do not allow it. So they have to make sure, and the agents have to make sure that you're buying the coverage for the purpose in which it's intended, which means that you're planning to use the either long-term care or the life insurance coverage that's being offered. So you actually won't be able to find an agent that will offer it to you, and the carriers will actually potentially terminate their contracts, or the regulators may take action against the agents if they're offering it in a way that's improper. So there's a number of different reasons why, but I would say once you get it off the table and you start looking at the value of what it is itself, it may actually make sense for you in the absence of the tax. And so that's kind of the rule of thumb for us is, would you be buying this if the tax wasn't around? You may be buying it sooner than you otherwise would, for example, and that might be a good thing in terms of the value you can get from the products. But yeah, that's the kind of the self-assessment you should do. If you feel like you wouldn't be doing this, you have no interest in the product, it may be tough for you to actually buy the coverage because you can't just use it as an opt-out product. The second question to ask yourself, and this depends on your individual situation, is we have products that are oriented more towards the long-term care coverage, and you'll get the best value from those products on long-term care planning. We have some products that are oriented more towards life insurance coverage, and they have a qualifying long-term care rider. But the reason you spend the money is because of the life insurance coverage first, and the rider is kind of a secondary benefit, but it still qualifies as an opt-out from the state. So if you know which one of those makes the most sense, your agent can help you shop the market and find the best fit. The question that we always get is, well, how do I buy something that's less than the payroll tax? I'm going to show you that it really is not about the beating the tax, getting lower cost than the tax. It's about getting more meaningful benefits, because the payroll tax is already very limited in the coverage itself. And when you see what you can get in the private market, you might end up getting 10, 20, or 30 times more benefits. It's not necessarily going to be a lower price policy, though, than the payroll tax it is. So that's kind of the assessment that you can make and see the value side by side. And so we get a lot of people as a result that say, like, well, should I be buying this if I'm in my 30s, for example? And the answer is, well, it depends. Do you have the financial wherewithal where you're already saving for retirement? Do you expect to be a higher earner in the future? And is the long-term care value good for you when you're in your 30s? And from our perspective, it's extremely good, because most of the carriers actually have made it inexpensive to buy it that young, because they typically don't get a lot of sales there to begin with. So we're finding there's a lot of product sweet spots, we call it, or value in those younger ages. So I would say absolutely, if you're going to do this, you might just be doing it sooner than you otherwise would have. Aaron, any other questions that come to mind? I'll jump into kind of which one's better, the payroll tax or the private insurance opt-out?
Yeah, I think, no, I wouldn't add anything other than that, other than, what you have to look at is the value, right? The premium itself may be more than the payroll tax, depending on your income. But what are you getting? What are you getting for that dollar? What are you getting for in exchange for the payroll tax versus what you could find in the private market? I think that's the biggest question.
Okay, and we'll actually cover some case studies, so I won't leave you in suspense too much longer about this. But first, let's kind of big picture look at who might get the most benefit from actually not opting out, from just paying the payroll tax in the Washington Cares Fund. What we're seeing is people that make less than $50,000 a year, it's going to be a struggle actually affording long-term care insurance and paying it for a long period of time, because they may actually be struggling with day-to-day living expenses. And the payroll tax itself is going to be less relative, to the benefits in that situation. So I'd say, like, it may not be, long-term care insurance may not be financially suitable in those situations. Another reason is that people who are going to stay in Washington continuously, right, and going to get benefits from the program, but they may be currently in poor health. We're finding about 85% of people qualify for their best private long-term care options, but 15% of people don't due to health. And so for those people, the CARES Fund is actually a good thing, because they're going to actually have some coverage versus not being able to access the private insurance markets. because it's quote unquote guaranteed issue from the Washington Cares Fund. So those are some examples of people that may not want to opt out. The people that may want to opt out, there's a number of different considerations. One is if you're making a lot of money or you expect to make a lot of money in the future, this payroll tax, as we talked about, could be actually more expensive than the amount of benefits you could get from the CARES Fund anyway. And you'll get a better deal potentially in the private marketplace. If you're going to move out of state during your career, as I mentioned, you're not going to get anything out of the Washington Cares Fund. The private insurance is portable, meaning that you can use it in any US state. There's a lot of companies that actually pay you if you actually retire in Canada. And there's even other companies that actually have international benefits. So there's different varieties out there that you can purchase based on where you might expect to retire. If you want to control your destiny and really customize your coverage, the state plan is very cookie cutter. The private options are very customizable, and you can use your money to pay for the things that you want to have in your policy. As I mentioned, do you want to have the ability to have flexibility or a residual benefit in the policy if you don't need long-term care? Do you want to get the best bang for your buck and get the most leverage on your policy? And what types of benefits you get are actually very flexible in the private marketplace. Another place where the private marketplace shines is including spouses. So if you include your spouse or your partner in your coverage, you can oftentimes get better deals from the insurance companies because they see on the actuarial side that people that live together take care of each other longer and are a lower long-term care cost for the insurance company. So they pass through that sometimes as discounts or what are called joint policy designs to the consumer. And so if you're including your partner or spouse, especially if they're also employed and subject to the tax, it can be a double value being able to do that. And then finally, if you're not going to or if you're going to retire in less than 10 years, you may not get anything out of the Washington Cares Fund, as we've talked about. Private insurance invests right away. So a lot of people, you'd be surprised, they actually need care at younger ages than you might expect. They're healthy today, but they have some type of accident. Or I had a good friend recently who just got stage 3 breast cancer, for example. And I'm thinking about her policy, and she's in her early 40s, and the care that she might need, because it's a pretty serious recovery process for her. And again, long-term care is designed to do that, even if you have an event, right away. So there's a lot of different reasons to do private long-term care insurance, and this is kind of the target marketplace that benefits the most from it. So really, there's 2 strategies if you decide you're a good candidate for opting out. The first one is buying minimum coverage, but it's still meaningful coverage that you plan to keep. It may cover $250,000, $500,000, $1 million of the risk, still far more than the state plan, at $36,500, but it's going to be a cost that's very affordable for you. The second option is we're seeing that people that actually will spend a little bit more, or those that actually prepay the premium as a shorter premium structure, can oftentimes get more leverage and more benefits in their policy. So they're paying a little bit more, but they're actually getting a lot more in terms of the benefits. And a lot of people want comprehensive coverage like that too. So there's no right or wrong answer to this. This is more of a personal decision about, would you be doing long-term care planning anyway? And if you are, you might as well do it the right way, since you're talking to some of the best long-term care specialists in the country that are licensed in Washington to help you do this. So cost of care, I won't belabor this too much, but oftentimes we'll start off with a need analysis and what does it mean, how much does care cost? And so this is the median cost of care from a very popular survey. And what we're looking at here is, let's say you're 40 years old today, you're planning for care at age 80. So 40 years in the future, the cost of care today for home health care is about $200 a day on the median cost. And what that means is if you need an average of 44 hours a week, which is what the survey assumes, it's about $72,000 a year for your care. But if we look at costs into the future, what we're seeing is, because there's a shortage of caregivers, there is an increasing cost of care each year. And we're seeing it's about 4% a year that these costs increase. It's actually higher than normal inflation just because of supply and demand. And so if you look out in 40 years, that cost could be about $350,000 a year. So you can't just think of today's cost with this. You have to think about what would care cost in the future. Now, this is for 1 year of care, but if you have an event like Alzheimer's, on average, you might actually need 3 years of care. So this can be a significant cost. And this is why families are becoming impoverished later on in life. They're not having a legacy to leave to their kids. They're going on Medicaid. It's not because they were poor to start off with. It's because long-term care actually forced them to spend their assets later on in life. And this is why we do this type of education and awareness, is a lot of people don't realize that this is out there, or they expect their kids to take care of them. And that has other consequences. For example, we've seen kids giving up their successful careers to become full-time caregivers for their parents, which is a very noble thing to do, but may not be optimal in terms of what they would normally do if they had a plan in place. So this is really the risk we're looking at, and this could be, again, it could be hundreds of thousands of dollars or even millions of dollars of a risk. But if you buy something in the private market, you're going to take a chunk out of this risk. With the Washington Cares Fund, it's only $36,500, and generally it's not going to grow very much, like we talked about with inflation. So it's just going to be a very small amount of whatever you need in the future, and that's really the biggest limitation of the program. So we look at, should I stay or should I go? This is kind of a summary of what we talked about, but the very big picture of this chart is that the Trust Act is available for people. It's going to have very limited benefits, but it's going to be guaranteed issue, where you don't have to go through any kind of health underwriting. The private insurance market is going to offer comprehensive options, but you're going to have to go through underwriting. There are a few extra incentives in private insurance, just in case they're relevant to you, that you should think about. One is they have something called the Long-Term Care Partnership Program with traditional long-term care, which means that if you're buying a qualifying policy, and those are policies that we offer today, they're available today, and you used all your benefits in your long-term care insurance policy, let's say you bought $300,000 pool of benefits, the state will let you keep $300,000 and qualify for Medicaid early. That's the partnership. You buy a private policy, it runs out of benefits, the public program takes care of you before you have to spend down. So that can be just an extra value, and there's no extra cost to that. So that's one thing to be aware of in the private market. But that's only available with traditional long-term care, not the hybrid products. On the flip side, there are other advantages. If you actually have a health savings account, the government allows you to take money out of a health savings account pre-tax to pay for long-term care insurance premiums up to a certain age limit each year. And so if you can fund your policy pre-tax, there are certain advantages to doing that if you have a health savings account. And then finally, if you either own a business or if your spouse owns a business, you can actually pay for your long-term care insurance policy through your business, and they treat it like health insurance, where either part or all of the premium is tax deductible as a business expense for a company. But again, that would only apply to you if you or your spouse is a business owner. But you could be self-employed and a small business owner to take advantage of that. So we see a lot of people qualifying for that. So just a couple of extra advantages there. Okay, so I know I've let you in suspense too long. Let's look at some numbers here. And as an actuary, this is how I think about the value proposition. On the right-hand side, I'm going to start off with the Washington Cares Fund. And I assumed here that someone is making $100,000 a year, and that means 0.58% would be $580 that year. On a monthly basis, that's $48 a month. And we're going to look at these on a monthly basis just to kind of do them apples to apples here. If you were 40 years old today and you're going to retire at 65, you're making 100,000 and you might increase that with 3% every year, then you would have put in $21,000 into the payroll tax over 25 years. Again, the benefits are $36,500, maybe with an occasional CPI increase, but I wouldn't expect too much from that, which means that for every dollar of premium you put into the Washington Cares Fund, you have up to $1.7 of benefits. And this is the number that I look at in terms of the value proposition on the insurance products. This is our minimum meaningful coverage. And actually, a lot of the carriers are making changes to increase these minimums. So just be aware this could change. But this is what we're seeing. And probably about now, today's market, about $170 to $200. But you're going to get commensurately more benefits. You're going to pay this as pay as you go. So you're going to pay it monthly. And then let's say you need care at age 85. Then you're going to have put in $75,000 over the next 45 years, but spread out over a long period of time. But you're going to get in this policy an initial benefit of $3,000 a month, but it's going to grow 3% compounded each year. And that's where you're getting the most value from the private insurance options, is they have increases that are automatically built into the policy that are guaranteed to grow your pool of benefits to maximize the amount of benefits you can get for your care, which means for every dollar of premium you put into this, you have $7.7 of benefits. Now, this is the minimum coverage, but oftentimes, as I mentioned, we're recommending more robust coverage because there's extra value to doing that, but the extra cost may not be that significant. But the one big picture to take away from this is not, as you can see, about beating the tax. It's about the benefit side. You can get much more meaningful coverage from the private options. The second option I wanted to show you was something that's more meaningful and also including your spouse or your partner. And we're seeing a lot of good value here. So let's say you have a married couple that's 40 years old. both doing long-term care planning. With the policies we have in the marketplace today, they might be able to pay, let's say, $267 a month for combined coverage for the two of them. So they're going to pay for two people's coverage, so it's going to cost twice as much. But you'll see there's a lot more benefits in this policy because the insurance companies offer you ways that incentivize you to include your spouse. And you might have, if both people needed coverage for a long period of time, up to 20 times leverage on their dollar. So that's kind of what the goal is of the long-term care specialists. They figure out, how do we maximize the amount of benefits you get for your money, shopping the market based on the insurance company, based on your health, and including the features that make the most sense for you. Now, in this case, I'm going to assume that this person is making $200,000, and you'll see for this family where you have a primary breadwinner earning, $200,000, they're going to put more into this tax than they might even get in benefits from the tax side. So you might think of this as, two options that you might not have considered before, but if long-term care planning makes sense, you can get quite a bit out of this type of plan. The third option I wanted to show you is one of my favorites. It's actually the hybrid option. The reason I bring this up as an option is that in a lot of situations we're seeing that you get a lot more value on the hybrid policies. And the reason for that is there's a few different factors here. One is that this particular premium is designed to be pay to age 65, which means you're not going to pay it to age 85 or when you go and claim. You're actually only going to pay it until you retire, which I really like that. So you're paying actually a monthly premium that's higher, but you're not paying it for as long. In a lot of these cases, you're actually going to pay less total premium dollars than you might on the pay-as-you-go side. So that's a reason why you might want to prepay these premiums. You can also do this as what's called a 10-pay, and we've seen these total premiums drop, when you do the 10-pay options. So there's a lot of advantages to doing that. Even though they're a higher price point, you actually pay less total cost. The other thing that I like about the hybrids is you'll notice this is a traditional and a hybrid policy. The hybrid policy, for the same amount of total premiums, you get more benefits dollar for dollar. Not only do you get more benefits in this case, but you get what are called cash benefits, meaning you have more flexibility on how you use the money when your family needs care. These are reimbursement, which you have to submit receipts and the insurance company is going to reimburse you for the care. And then the other benefits are, if you don't use the benefits in this policy, all the money you put into it actually goes back to your family, your beneficiary, as a death benefit. And you can even design this so that after 10 years, you have the option to take all the money out of the policy, no questions asked. You have to give up the coverage. So you may not want to do that because of the value of the coverage itself is quite good. But if you change your mind, it gives you an option to take your money out, which is much better than buying it and intentionally dropping it, which, again, we talked about the carriers and the agents can't offer to you. This is actually a product feature that lets you change your mind. And so, again, there's an extra cost to that, but you get the flexibility if you're younger, for example, to change your mind later. And I think it's worth it for a lot of people out there. So this is why we offer hybrids, is because the value is just there. But there's no right or wrong answer. I showed you for couples, traditional long-term care is quite good. For individuals, hybrids may be better. Again, depending on what your needs are, you may choose different options. Aaron, anything that you would mention in terms of product options? I know you're a product expert as well, and what you're finding people like to buy here.
Yeah, I think what you'll find if you do talk to a specialist, they're going to have a lot of options, and everybody's circumstances are unique. Whether you're married or have a partner, your age, your income, what your premium tolerance might be, and there's annuity-based products, life insurance-based products, and also pure long-term care. And of course, we can't get into all of those details in this call. But my point is, there's a lot of flexibility in the private market. There's going to be a product that's appropriate and suitable for your circumstances, no doubt about it. And a specialist will help you walk through what's going to be the best fit for you. And that will help drive the leverage question that Mark's talking about as well.
Yeah. And again, they have access to these programs. We actually put this out there for them to use with you on a screen share. And I'll show you if there are questions about this, how we custom design the plans, and you can kind of have transparency about what you're being offered, and confidence that it's a great deal. So those were kind of the main options. Again, I gave you some ideas. The price points, again, they're going to be probably about $200 a month in the private market is what to expect with traditional long-term care. Probably closer to $300 to $400 a month is what to expect with hybrid long-term care, but it's got a lot of other benefits to it. If that just doesn't make sense financially for you, obviously we totally understand that not everyone's going to be the right fit for private insurance, but for those that are most affected by the payroll tax and would like to get a lot more for their dollar, we think that there are a lot of you out there that would benefit from this. So just in terms of what's next, like we mentioned, it's important to act quickly. We don't like rushing people into a decision like this. We like to educate. But again, we're going to give you a very fast-paced education to allow you to meet the deadlines that the state is imposing and make sure that you get the options that are best for you with the carriers on the marketplace today. What you'll be doing is going to a page that HR will send to you that we call our enrollment page. There will be a recorded webinar just like this that you can watch or rewatch at your convenience. There's FAQs on that website. And then there's a form at the bottom that you'll fill out. It's got health information on it. We use a HIPAA compliant form, and we're really sensitive about people's health information. But we need that to make sure that the specialist can do some homework in advance and they can shop the market. So when they meet with you the first time, they'll be prepared to actually show you some options and really save you a lot of time. So go ahead and do that. And then as soon as you fill out that form, you'll automatically get an email from that specialist. It'll be somebody on the team that, like I've said, I've hand selected these individuals. So if you have any issues with them, just let me know, but they're fabulous. They're better than Aaron and I are, to be frankly, about, they're doing this full time every day with clients in Washington. So they know exactly, the questions you're going to have, and they know how to address that. And there'll actually be a link to their calendar. So what we want you to do is when you get that email, just book with them whenever your availability allows you to do that. And they'll be on that Zoom call with you doing these screen shares and talking to you about your options just like this. It'll be a really convenient way to do it. The other thing I'll point out is don't be afraid of the health underwriting. It's designed to protect the risk pool so you get the best deal, but it's not invasive. Most of the insurance companies actually don't require you to do any additional testing, for example. All they're going to do is they're going to get your prescriptions through an automated data feed. They're going to ask your doctors sometimes for your medical records, and then they're going to do a phone interview with you. So all you're going to have to do is do a phone interview with the company. Just be honest with them. The specialist is going to prepare you for that. Really, it's not very invasive though. So don't be afraid of the underwriting. They're not usually going to draw your blood in most situations or anything like that. They're just going to use the data that they have from your medical records to help make a decision. And most people do qualify. So don't be afraid of it. With that, why don't we go ahead? I'll show you the enrollment page just so you can see a glimpse of it. Again, HR will send you a link to this to follow up after this webinar. This is where you can watch the recorded webinar, go through the FAQs, and this is where you'll fill out the form to look at your options. But let's go ahead, Aaron, and why don't we open up for some live questions if we have any?
Yeah, if anybody wants to ask a live question, feel free. I will try to unmute everyone here.
Yeah, and you can also type it into the chat. We can read out your question, especially if you're feeling a little intimidated here with us on the line.
Mm-hmm.
So far, I don't see anything. And Linda, feel free if you have anything too. I know you're on as well. If you have any questions to represent the audience. And we must have answered everything, Aaron.
Yeah. too good of a job.
Okay, I see a couple people unmuted here. Are there any questions? Okay, and then if you did miss, I know we went through a lot of topics very quickly. We're recording the session, so we'll send Aaron will send out a copy to you guys so you can watch it, or anybody that's missed this live session can watch this afterwards.
Mm-hmm. Mark, did you see the chat?
I just did now. Okay, great. I see the question. Okay, so the question is, to be clear, the 36,000 or so is your lifetime payout period, not per year. That is correct. It's a lifetime maximum. They've termed it in terms of $100 benefit units, but I believe you can use that within 1 year. But it's not going to grow over time unless they make a CPI increase to it, which, as we talked about, it has to be a financially sustainable program. So it's not going to happen right away. And if it happens in the future, it's based on, whether they can support it, through the payroll tax that they're collecting. So yeah, that 36,000, I would say, is what I would expect today, based on all the information we have as a lifetime payout. Great question.
And while others are thinking of a question, from a planning perspective, I got started in the long-term care business in 1998, and at that point, $100 a day was the standard, right? In 1998, and you guys saw the cost of care in the state of Washington and across the country is obviously significantly more than $36,000 a year. So it is better than nothing for sure. If somebody needs the care, to have that pool of money there is definitely a benefit. But from a pure planning standpoint, it would be fairly under what most people would do intentionally. Mark, we've got a couple more questions in the chat box here.
Yeah, let's go ahead. I'll take a look at the second question here, which says, for people that are out of state, how do they opt out? And if they'll be back in Washington in 2 years, let's say, will they need to get LTC if they want to opt out now? That is a great question. One of the other things in terms of people that are left out is we've run into a lot of people that live in Oregon or Idaho, but they work in Washington. And if they work in Washington, it's very likely they'll be subject to the payroll tax, but you can't get benefits unless they actually move to Washington. So there is some people left out there. But let's say you're living in California today and you're not even working in Washington, but you might move to Washington in 2 years. The answer is that yes, you will be subject to the payroll tax as it currently stands in 2 years, but no, you can't opt out. It's a once in a lifetime. So we do have some people that are anticipating they're going to move to Washington. They're buying policies out of state. You can fill out the form as long as you're at least 18 years old. I believe if you're out of state, that's not a requirement. And then you can opt out right now for the policy. They'll give you a document that says you're eligible to opt out from the state program for life. And then if you do move into the state and work there later, you can show the state that, or show your employer that approval, and they will not take the payroll tax out of your wages. So you can buy it, but you have to know or have some idea, to want to do this, that you're going to move to Washington at some point in the future. But if you are in that situation, it does make sense to buy private insurance for the same reason as people that are in Washington today.
Mm-hmm. I've had the same question for younger folks as well, not necessarily out of state, but they live in the state of Washington, but they might be 16 years old right now and unable to buy a long-term care product, or maybe they're not even in the workforce yet. They might not have W-2 income, but for those folks, when they do age into the workforce, it's too late for them as well.
Yeah. And someone had asked, so you don't have to be actually making money in Washington to opt out. And the answer is, as it currently stands, and again, the state is releasing more details. Officially, they're going to release the online opt-out form October 1st, but you really want to have your policy in place by then so you can get first in line, because there may be delays in even their process to approve you. But the answer is that it does not say currently that you have to be a Washington resident to opt out, or that you have to be in the workforce, as Aaron mentioned, to opt out, but you do have to be at least 18 years old to do it in order to submit your opt-out form. So that's really the only main requirement to be able to opt out today. And then the private insurance is the only ticket out, because what the state is saying, that you don't have to be covered by their program because you already have your own plan, right? The state program isn't needed because of your own private policy. That's why they've created this exemption for you. But they only made it a once in a lifetime exemption. And as far as we know right now, they're not going to open that window up. It was very hard for them to offer the exemption that they did, but there was some people obviously that own private insurance that felt, that they shouldn't be subject to this, and they were able to get that into the law. These are great questions. Feel free to keep typing in. You're welcome. Someone said, thank you for your time. Appreciate that. And we're always happy to help. And this is what we do full time. We're adapting what we're doing to the Washington environment right now, but this is what we do. Aaron and I do full time, is we help clients with long-term care and life insurance planning. So again, let us know any questions that you have. We love to educate, and again, even if you decide not to buy private insurance, again, we're here to help you navigate this either way. So, all right, I think that's all we got, Aaron.
All right, well, very good. Well, thank you everybody for taking time out of your day to join Mark and I. We do appreciate it. Do feel free to reach out to either of us, predominantly me. I'll be your primary point of contact, and happy to help with anything you might need from there. So from there, I think we're done for the day. Thanks again, everybody.
All right, take care, everyone.